New data has revealed just how tough Adelaide's property market has become for first home buyers.
The slump in house prices is over, with new data showing Melbourne's market is soaring once again.
Well, housing affordability is now at its worst level.
Skyrocketing prices and inadequate policies have led to a housing crisis in both Australia and New Zealand. The dream of home ownership is slipping away from many in both countries. In New Zealand alone, house prices skyrocketed 134% from June 2010 to June 2024, outpacing the previous 2 decades and rising 1.5 times faster than Australia. The people in government and their leadership and actions have often fueled the crisis in these two countries. In Australia, for example,
there's a warning tonight that thousands of Australians could be plunged into more debt and banks could return to irresponsible lending. The government wants to make it easier for Australians to get credit, announcing the plan on the same day it cuts support to those who need it most.
Proposals to ease lending rules was initially made to help first home buyers, but this actually inflated property prices higher.
Definitely been a rough year.
While the government pulls back from the billions in economic lifelines it wants Australians to spend and wants banks to lend more.
Banks have become now risk averse.
So it's planning to wind back changes made after the global financial crisis and make it easier for individuals, families and businesses to access loans, credit cards and mortgages by making it easier for banks to give loans during a recession as household debt soars to almost double annual income.
Consider the conflict between Abraham and Lot. Their herdsmen quarreled over grazing land.
Now Lot, who was moving about with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, but the land could not support them while they stayed together, for their possessions were so great that they were not able to stay together.
However, this led a leader like Abraham to propose a solution. This peaceful separation would allow Lot to have his allocated area of land.
So Abram said to Lot, "Let's not have any quarreling between you and me, or between your herders and mine. Is not the whole land before you? Let's part company. If you go to the left, I'll go to the right. If you go to the right, I'll go to the left."
And the humility to even allow Lot to choose his portion first is one to be admired. This story is one of many that underscores the timeless nature of the value of land.
These proposed changes will remove the obligation for banks to check that you can actually repay a loan or a credit card,
increasing the burden on the consumer, and economists warn mistakes highlighted by the Royal Commission could be repeated.
They may start lying again about the size of their income or their expenses, and therefore you end up with, irresponsible loans being made.
The banks say a balance is needed.
This is going to be an economic disaster.
And that's what the Treasurer is trying to avoid. When he hands down his budget in less than 2 weeks, he'll forecast how much is needed to recover economically from the impacts of coronavirus, a monumental task with a monumental political and human risk.
This is not easy.
And people such as Troy wonder how bright their future will be.
Hopefully I can get some more shifts here. Don't really know what's going to happen there.
The leaders of these two countries, Australia and New Zealand, do not have the same qualities, the same nature, and that is what has led and will always lead to a housing crisis in these two countries. Addressing the housing crisis requires more than just policy adjustments. It demands a collective commitment to fairness, equity, and the right for each individual to own a home. We can strive towards a future in which home ownership is applicable and possible for everyone.